Angel-6942 calling in. Angel-6942 calling in. Angel-6942 calling in.
The date in human years is Friday, the 6th of August 2021. And things are getting stranger for myself and the human host. All we remember doing is going to work, watching a bit of TV, eating a bit, and then going to sleep. And then unless the human host has been sleeping for over 12 hours a day, there are massive chunks of memories missing from the human host. Though those strange happenings where things appear and disappear from the kitchen table isn't happening anymore, though the human host is getting these really vivid dreams, and I'm experiencing them too, which is very strange. You seem to be of trees and the sound of water. I'll try and project one to you from what I remember. Now, I haven't done this in a very long time, so bear with. No. Okay. Oh. Did you see that? So yeah, the trees and the sound of water, and there's a feeling of floating and cold as well. I don't understand what it's supposed to mean. Now, in many ways, the human host is sort of grateful that vast amount of the days are gone, because the only thing that seems to be in the news or being talked about is the Olympics. I mean, it's about the winners, about the losers, about what's happening around it. I mean, he's getting very bored. I mean, they're even following the families of the Olympic athletes around, and they must be hiding behind bushes or something, because they're there in their houses filming them, sort of screaming and cheering when their family members win in the Olympics. It must be teams and teams of stalkers going around, hiding in the bushes behind the TVs. It's very odd. And the human is finding this very, very boring. And to be quite honest, so am I. And I think a lot of other people are finding this very, very boring as well. I mean, for example, there was a cameraman who was filming at the Olympics. He was filming the hockey match, and he was so bored, he ended up filming a cockroach walking away. And I think the cockroach was bored too because it was walking away. Either that, or it was practicing the beams for the gymnastic. And it seemed to be very, very bad-tempered Olympics as well. People seem to be sort of having strops. There was this tennis player called Novak, and I think he's quite famous. He's won a lot of medals before, or Olympic things, or something called a Grand Slam. Anyway, he lost his Olympic match. He wasn't going away with any medals, and he was having a tantrum, and he threw his tennis racket across the court like a little baby, going, "I didn't win." Then later on, he sort of withdrew because he was supposed to be doing a doubles match, which I think is two of them playing, but he withdrew due to injury. Though I think when he said injury, I think he meant that his feelings were hurt. And also there was another an athlete boxer called Ben, and he lost the gold medal because they had a judgment. I think they all became equal in terms of points, and they had to judge who wins. So he won the silver medal instead. But Ben refused to wear the silver medal on the podium because he said that he lost and therefore he was a failure, and then not having gold was just a bigger failure. So he was upset as well. But later on, he sort of came to regret this and said that actually winning the Olympic medal was a very good thing. So there seems to be, like the lady last week, there seems to be a lot of pressure on them. And also there was another Olympian from Belarus, a Belarusian Olympian called Catherine, and she criticised the Belarus's coaches, and she was sent home, but she refused to be sent home because she said she did not feel safe. And given the history of planes flying over Belarus, I don't blame her. I mean, if the planes were that bad, can you imagine what their coaches are like? Terrible. I mean, rickety. Probably the toilets at the back aren't emptied. If they have toilets at the back, it's terrible. And so she claimed asylum. She talked to the Olympic officials in Japan, and I think they gave her asylum, and they've moved her to Poland. She's safely staying in Poland, in exile, I think. Though her granny, Catherine's granny, said, do not come back to Belarus, because her granny was very worried. Yes, she was worried of the extortionate prices that Catherine would have to pay on those budget airlines for food and drink. I mean, £3 for Diet Coke, €3. Terrible. Now, there's not all Olympics though. There has been other bits and bobs, not much. Now, this week, Bojo was in the news because apparently they're having this climate change conference later on this year. Another one later on this year in Glasgow, and they were talking about preparations for this. And Bojo was talking about the 80s ex-leader of the UK, and I think her name was, what was her name? Her name was Maggie out, because I think that's what they called her. Maggie out. It's chanted quite a lot apparently when you looked through the history. Anyway, and Maggie out was apparently a hate figure, and she was as bad as Voldemort and Sauron or Darth Vader. Though I think Darth Vader did have some redeeming features, and a lot of people didn't think that Maggie out had any. Anyway, Bojo said that Maggie was actually kick-started the fight against climate change because she closed all the mines and fired all the miners. And therefore sort of like, made the UK less reliant on coal-powered energy. Yeah, I thought that too. And I think Bojo is actually trying to follow in the way of Maggie out. Because, I mean, the policy of COVID and travel is so confusing that it's discouraged anybody from flying on holiday. So therefore, sort of reducing the carbon output of airplane travel. So that's a good thing. And also, when he goes to Glasgow to actually do this climate conference, he's actually refused to have a conversation or speak to Scotland's leader, Nicola, on that trip, apparently. And therefore reducing the amount of CO2 emitted by both of them, which is good. Too much hot air sort of leads to global warming, I think. Yeah. Though he is fighting the climate change, I don't think the message has got through to the people working for him, because today in the news there was outrage about one of his ministers called Atok, who is the president of the conference that's going to happen in Glasgow. Yeah, and people have complained that he's been to a lot of red list countries and he's never self-isolated, and he's taken almost 30 or more flights to these countries, visited or flew to 30 or more countries by plane. Because I don't think he has a broomstick or a witch, but I'm sure it's plane. So therefore, sort of like, making things worse. Though I do think Atok maybe doesn't understand his job description and, thought that climate change minister means adding to it instead of taking away. Now, remember a few months back there was this cargo ship called the Evergreen that sort of gave the Suez Canal constipation, and suddenly it was like freed and everything could flow through. Well, it's finally arrived at Felixstowe this week, bringing in its cargo. Though a lot of the perishables like food had to be destroyed, a lot of other stuffs were able to be delivered to who was expecting him. I mean, there was one crazy golf course that was so excited because it was looking forward to its dinosaurs that would be delivered. Though the House of Lords had denied that any of its members were actually a passenger on the cargo ship. Anyway, I will speak to you next week.
Bonnie is a dinosaur from our imagination, and when he's